I had a plan. Quiet fall, 3 weekends off a spa day with my sister. Maybe a second date with a nice guy who texted good morning without sounding like a sales pitch. That was the plan. Right up until the email hit my screen like a brick 30-day strategic trip to Northbridge City. Assigned lead CEO Lucas Hale. Assistant Ava Bennett. Departure 48 hours. If you don't know Lucas Hale, imagine the weather report personified cold front moving in at 6 a.m. Zero chance of warmth. People in our building said his calendar made grown executives cry. I'd spent 2 years staying out of his blast radius. Suddenly, I was seat 1A on his private jet for a full month. I laughed out loud, then cried into a cold coffee. Same cup, he called within minutes. Ms. Bennett, you received your itinerary. Yes, sir. Pack smart. We will represent the firm in front of investors, city officials, and partners. I expect precision, no drama, and punctuality down to the minute. Understood. Do you have a problem with the assignment? I had an encyclopedia of problems. What I said was, no, sir. The jet looked like a minimalist museum cream leather walnut trim. Silence polished to a shine. Lucas didn't do small talk. Sit, he said. It wasn't a suggestion. We climbed through gray clouds and he laid out the month like a military campaign summit on day 1, investor dinners, site visits in steel-toed boots, dawn debriefs, midnight prep. My name showed up in every sentence as the person who made it all happen while not existing. Northbridge City greeted us with glass towers and sharp wind. The Summit Crown Hotel smelled like orchids and clean money. He took the suite on the 42nd floor. Mine was across the hall. That detail sat in my stomach like a coin I didn't want to flip. The first week hurt. My phone vibrated non-stop, calendar alerts, file requests, cars waiting downstairs. Lucas didn't raise his voice. He sliced with quiet precision. Not that deck, the revised one. Confirm the boardroom capacity. Be aware of your space. I became very aware of my space 2 feet behind him, 3 steps ahead of the next demand, and nowhere for myself. On day 4, in a meeting thick with cologne and condescension, my heel snagged the edge of a heavy rug. I didn't fall, but I did that helpless windmill thing and hit the table. A venture guy smirked. Charming assistant. Lucas didn't look at him. Efficient, he said, ice flat. Then his gaze cut to me down to my ankle. You're limping. I'm fine, I muttered. Pride is a stubborn animal. Sit, he said, quieter, different. Before I could argue, he knelt. Yes, the Glacier CEO touching my ankle like it might be made of glass. Heat went straight to my face. I tried to joke. I'm not going to crumble, Mr. Hale. You shouldn't have to be uncomfortable to do your job, he said without looking up. Then not quite a concession, but close. We'll adapt the afternoon. It was the first crack in his armor, and I saw it. Didn't know what to do with it yet, but I saw it. That night I hid in the hotel lounge, nursing a glass of red like it could write me a doctor's note. He showed up with his tie loosened, sleeves rolled, which felt like seeing a wolf in a sweater. You drink Cabernet, he said. I drink whatever helps my feet stop screaming. Something like a smile tugged at his mouth. He sat uninvited, but somehow not unwelcome. For once, we weren't on the clock. He asked about my first job diner on Route 6, tips and nickels, the smell of onions in my hair. He told me he'd poured concrete at 18, learned that measuring twice and cutting once is cheaper than ego. We both liked old jazz. He actually laughed at one of my sarcastic comments, and for a second I forgot who he was. Or maybe I saw who he was when nobody asked him to be steel. Another day out near a construction site, rain turned the highway into a shimmer of brake lights, and our driver conceded defeat. We idled in a line of cars while water tapped the roof like impatient fingers. The silence had weight to it, charged, not cold. Do you ever get tired, I asked, of what always holding the wheel, always driving? He watched the rain crawl down the window. Yes, but stopping means falling behind. Not everything is a race. In my world it is. I stared at my hands. Why me slipped out before I could catch it? Why bring me for 30 days? He leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes steady. Because you don't break easy. Most people either grovel or bail. You push back quietly in the right places. I notice. My breath did something stupid and visible. The driver killed the engine to save fuel. The car went still except for our breathing and the weather. We didn't touch, just sat with whatever that was like a spark we'd both pretend not to see if the lights snapped back on. They did eventually in the elevator to 42. We stood side by side watching numbers climb, electricity humming in the tiny space between us. Outside our doors, he said my name like it weighed something. Ava. I turned. He wasn't hiding behind CEO posture anymore. Are we pretending nothing happened? He asked. We didn't do anything. He took one step closer. The carpet might as well have become a cliff. That's not true. This is a terrible idea, I whispered. The worst, he agreed, and we stood there, two idiots on the edge, until the world tilted and the edge gave way. I won't perform the elevator-to-door math for you, but I will tell you this. We crossed a line that night, and it changed the shape of every room we walked into after. Morning was knives. He sat on the edge of the bed shirt and his hands face closed for business. We shouldn't have done that, he said. There's nothing like hearing you're a mistake while you're still holding the echo of someone's pulse in your palm. Complicated doesn't mean wrong, I said. I don't get to be just a man, he replied. I'm a business. Every step is watched. One misstep and he didn't finish. He didn't have to. You make a habit of shutting people out after they let you in. I asked, voice shaking. I make a habit of not letting people in, he said, and that was worse. Get out, I told him, because there's a point where dignity is all you have left, and I wasn't rolling that on his table. He left. Meetings blurred. I dropped a folder and no one helped pick up the pages of my professionalism. At midnight, my door buzzed. No one there, just a folded note on the floor. I never should have let you go. L. Sleep didn't visit. Dawn did. Work did. We had 2 days left in Northbridge and a gala at the conservatory that promised speeches, violins, and the excruciating art of pretending. He texted late afternoon rooftop. Before the gala. Just you. The rooftop looked like the cover of a romance novel. Someone forgot to roll their eyes at string lights, marble planters, a skyline glittering like expensive teeth. He stood by the railing, tileless hands in pockets, looking like a man rehearsing a jump. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said. You left a note and disappeared, I answered. Not your best strategy. He took a step closer. I've spent a lifetime building walls. They kept everything tidy until you. I watched you walk away this morning because I was afraid I'd ruin you. You don't get to decide what ruins me, I said, heat creeping into my voice. He nodded like he'd practiced losing. You're right. That's why I'm here. I am not cold with you. I'm thawing. It's terrifying, and I'm saying it anyway.
Because it's easy at midnight, harder at noon. He exhaled, and the man who measured twice finally stopped calculating. I want the early flights and the late decks and the fights about commas and the forgiveness after. I want it with you. Not perfect. Real. I put his hand on my chest over the drum I couldn't slow. You're not the only one who's scared, I said. But I'm tired of pretending I don't want this. We kissed like the disaster drill had ended and the building hadn't fallen. Not rushed, just right. When we stepped back, the city hadn't changed, but I had. We finished the month ahead of schedule. The Northbridge project closed in a burst of handshakes and signatures. People said Lucas walked into rooms with a lighter step. People said I sat beside him like I'd been there all along. They weren't wrong. Our days looked the same to anyone not paying attention. Coffee at 7, strategy at 9, fires at 11, wins at 2.
What changed was the space between the notes, his hand finding mine under a table, my voice in his ear when he needed it, his stubborn apology the first time we fought about a calendar block that would not move. We were messy. We were learning. We were real. I know some of you want a clean bow right here, a ring, a sunset, a soundtrack. Life is not a clean bow. A month after Northbridge, a board member pulled me aside and said, "Careful, Ms. Bennett. Women who fly too close to the sun get burned." I smiled and asked him who signed off on the budget he just bragged about. He swallowed his warning with his champagne. "Here's what I learned and what I need you to hear. People will underestimate you because it's cheaper for them than changing their minds. They will call you charming when they mean invisible. They will mistake your silence for consent and your competence for neutrality. Hold your ground. Push back in the right places at the right time with receipts. You don't have to shout to be loud. As for Lucas and me, do we still argue about whether everything is a race? Absolutely. Does he still show up 5 minutes early, like time owes him interest every day? But when the weather turns, when the room tilts, when someone tries to fold me back into a smaller version of myself, he stands there like a wall. I don't have to climb. And I stand there like a person who isn't going to break easy. We meet in the middle. We hold. Now I want to hear from you. Was I wrong to let a guarded man into my life after the way that morning felt? Or do you think people can unlearn their armor when they're finally seen? Have you watched someone get written off at work because of a stereotype, a rumor, a single mistake? And what did you do about it? Drop your story in the comments. Tell me where you've seen power used like a blade or like a bridge. If this hit a nerve, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs a reminder that they're not invisible, and tell me what justice looks like where you are.